Hey everyone, this is Cindy. It is February 24th, 2025. Here on the East Coast, it's 11:30 a.m. This is an open door, and it's the hour we've entitled Where the Rubber Meets the Road. And this is the hour where we take a idea from A Course in Miracles and we discuss how it may be used um, in our life. And I do, so I'm going to read it. I put it in the email on Sunday. I'm going to read the section that we were given to discuss. I'm going to read it twice. I'm going to play a song. I'm going to share a little bit and then open things up. It won't take that long. But I do want to confess that there is a distraction in my space. I'm not quite as focused as I remember myself normally to be. Um, the world's giving me some opportunities, and I may or may not tell the story when it comes up. It's not really my story to tell, but um, in general, there was a suicide in my family over the weekend. So holding a space, watching people's response, and it's a family member of a family member, right? So it's not no one has to worry about my children or their spouse. Yeah, I knew Richard was sitting there going, no, 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 no. It's a close family member of a family member of mine. So I am sort of kind of on the outside, but not really. But it's me holding this interesting space of watching the dynamics, watching the pull into judgments and how people respond to those experiences that is occupying a lot of space here and a lot of space in the middle of the night, which is a very interesting time to have those things happen. So I'm just not as centered and still as I normally am. This is a great teaching to look at all those things. And I feel very, very grateful that I could say things like that here. And everyone just goes, ah, yes, I get you. Okay. So I'm gonna read the words into our space. They were in the email I sent yesterday. And then I may read them twice. And then I'm gonna play a song. And I'm gonna tell you right now that I'm gonna play Pooh's Corner because for me, that song reminds us of our priorities. And then I'll probably read this again. And then my intention, believe it or not, is to spend a few minutes talking about one of my favorite topics that I learned from the Course of Miracles, and that's ego propaganda. And then I'll open it up. I love calling things out as ego propaganda. So here are the words. How could I how could I understand what I see when I have judged it amiss? What I see is the projection of my own errors of thought. I do not understand what I see because it is not understandable. Have you ever watched anyone like take all of their energy and essentially attempt to prove to you that the sky is orange when it's blue? And they literally investing all of themselves in defending their right to know that that sky is orange. That's what this reminds me of. I do not understand what I see because it is not understandable. There is no sense in trying to understand it, but there is every reason to let it go, to make room for what can be seen and understood and loved. I can exchange what I see now for this merely by being willing to do so. Is not this a better choice than the one I made before? I'm going to read that again and then hit the pause button and play the song. How could I understand what I see when I have judged it amiss? What I see is the projection of my own errors of thought. I do not understand what I see because it is not understandable. There is no sense in trying to understand it, but there is every reason to let it go, to make room for what can be seen and understood and loved. I can exchange what I see now for this merely by being willing to do so. Is not this a better choice than the one I made before? Okay, Barbie, you know what your job is. Let's take a moment and listen to Kenny Loggins. How could I understand what I see when I have judged it amiss? What I see is the projection of my own errors of thought. I do not understand what I see because it is not understandable. There is no sense in trying to understand it, but there is every reason to let it go, to make room for what can be seen and understood and loved. I can exchange what I see now for this merely by willing to do so. Is not this a better choice than the one I made before? The simple thing is that the teachings of A Course in Miracles, even though there's a lot of words, are very simple, right? Um, there's either love or fear, and only love is real. So when I hang in the experience of love, like Pooh's Corner, um, then experiences rise and fall, and we can feel what we feel, but we don't have to identify with any of them. And we don't have to feed the belief that anything that's outside of God or outside of consciousness has any real power. Or I can play within the fear thought system and allow it to spin out for as long as I choose to play there. Um, but it doesn't really have any power. That's Course in Miracles too, right? Nothing real. What is it? Nothing real can, I can't even remember right now. Like I said, I'm a little scattered, but I do know that this energy of fear can feeds upon itself for as long as we choose to feed it. And this is where I always get really excited about, or I very entertained by this concept of ego propaganda. So the ego was created to hold the belief in fear in place. And when it's believed and when it's given center stage, it will continue to justify all of its problems and that why fear is real and why we have to protect ourselves from a fear-based world by holding ourselves in a blanket of fear, blah 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 blah. But when you bring it back to the basics, just the simple basics, which my friend Paul Selleck and the guides simply say God is, God simply is. And what is God? God is love. God is consciousness. God is that from which everything rises and falls. And when we rest into that, relax into that, then it can be utilized to um, to help us not only navigate the world that we find ourselves in, but thrive in it and be of service in it, which is a huge part of Cindy's motivation these days. Is I am not here to give Cindy a peaceful existence and the best life she can. I am here to realize what it is, and in that realization, recognize that every moment I rest is that. Another angel gets its wings. All of a sudden, I just have Jimmy Stewart in my head. But that's, I mean, the ego wants to argue against that. The ego wants to continually state that there is a reason to defend yourself. There's a reason to justify fear. That's only because that's what that thought system was created to defend. But where does that sit in truth? So I continually rest back and I continually rest back. And these last couple of days, since this sort of rocked my family's world, I've been practicing during the day and at 1 o'clock in the morning and at 2 o'clock in the morning. And when it comes up and the fear fills me or the desire for things to be different or how can I serve and what should I say and what should I do? And I can allow that fear to be part of the human experience while practicing holding a space of trusting that nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. Herein lies peace of God. And from that space, allow that loving space to direct my actions and continually dissolve everything that's not that. And that's where I want to end right now from the, this is what um this is what's happening. This is the share. This is the reminder of, yes, I am being still and these experiences are happening. And man, do they, at one point, I had to just keep telling this being that I loved over and over again, it's so okay not to be okay. It's so okay right now to just allow the shock of the experience to be your experience and not try to control this moment, but ride the wave, while I sit here holding the space of understanding that it is a wave. So this is the part where I wait for hands to be raised and how is this affecting you and what's going on? What else do you want to say? And anyone that's gotten the email knew this, we were going to talk about it. And I'm so waiting for Andrew to raise his hand first. He always does, and he's not here. But Richard's here. Hey, Richard.
Morning, everyone. I was raised as a Irish American. One of the we have happy weeks in the Irish community, and we celebrate the death of people. And one of the phrases we say at a funeral is, "Hope you get to heaven before the devil knows you died." So, and then I was reminded of Christian Sundberg. He said, "How wonderful it is to be not in the body, to be a spirit and be the light." It's so joyous. And I actually shared with his audience how when he first decided to come into the physical plane, he was so uncomfortable being in the fetus of his mother that he just decided to leave. And he left, and she had a stillborn child as a result of his leaving. And then he finally came back again. But he wanted to come into this plane of existence because he had met somebody in the not physical plane that was so full of joy and peace and love. He said, "How did you do that? how did you get to this state of being? And he said, well, I agreed to go into the physical plane and experience life as a body, mind. So that's what motivated him to do what we're all going through. So, and then in my mid 30s, before I got on my spiritual path, people in my life, my family started to pass, transition. And I decided rather than grieve them to death, because the grief was only experienced by those of us that were still living in this world. I decided to have conversations with them. And every time I did this, they said they were fine. They were happy. They were glad it happened as it happened. And they're glad to be out of this life of confinement in the body and mind, and they're happy, joyous, and free. So that made me return to peace and really shortened the grieving process for me. And I think the Course says that what we experience in the world is a projection of our own thoughts, like you said in the reading. And so then when we project our own thoughts on the world, because we're judging instead of being non-judgable of whatever's happening in the world, we judge it, and then we perceive it as we judge it. And our perception is warped by the fact that we threw it out there to begin with. So when you choose again, for me, since my experience always seems to be as Richard, I don't have these days of bliss where I'm just off somewhere in the universe, being one with God. My life is my life. I have good moments and bad moments. Fortunately, more good moments now that I'm on this path, but I still have my moments. And so I come to the realization for me that my experience will always be as Richard, and you will always be as you are, and the illusion. So since I'm manifesting my own experience within the dream, what do I want to manifest? Do I manifest the ego thought system or the Holy Spirit's thought system? And when I access the right mind, drop into the stillness of what we are, and realize I am love. So if that's what I want to manifest. So now my intent is to manifest the love that I am in truth within the illusion, and not manifest the ego thoughts that I am within the illusion. And that seems to be working for me. But when I listen to other teachers of the Course, they always emphasize, well, you're not real. And so you ought to be in this blissful state all the time, or you ought to be dropping out of the dream and dropping into meditation or some state of mind which is not the world. That's why I've adopted the idea that I'm everything. I'm the infinite and the finite. I'm the physical and the non-physical. I'm everything that is. And everything that is, how well am I doing with manifesting the love that I am in truth? So that's what I'm using as my guide and during this journey without distance, right? So I love you all, and that'll pass.
Thank you. As I was listening to you, it sounded like, and for those of us that go to the reality check meeting on Friday, but it sounded like you were giving a summary of Helen Hamilton's pointings in reality check. This letting go separating the dream from everything else and just it's all one thing, right? Yeah. Thank you very much. Who else is going to share? Please, Ron.
Thanks, Cindy. Thanks, everyone. What's really just coming up for me today is about willingness, and whenever I'm disturbed, well, it follows I'm never upset for the reason I think, I had an experience over the weekend where after the fact, I clearly saw that there was a thought in the mind about how my mom would respond to something. And I went into it, and I don't think she actually responded that way, but I responded to her as if she did. Does that make sense? you know? And it was a really great noticing, I was able to practice non-judgmental awareness with it, and just look at it and see how this story and this assumption and expectation in the mind caused me to react to something that wasn't even there, you know? So that's what this seems to be pointing to me. I was grateful to read it, this weekend, that there's no sense in trying to understand that, but it's to be aware of what I'm thinking all the time. If I had heard the projected story in my head, then perhaps I would have been willing to choose again and act from a different place. So what's just appearing for me today is to watch out for what I think is happening, So I summed up that paragraph by saying, let go of what I see, be willing, choose again, and I also would like to add that a lot of what is seen today is really good. I look around and we have health, we have love in this family. It's amazing what we do together. I'm surrounded by a lot of friends through, meetings like our 12-stepping meeting on Tuesdays. And it's just incredible what I am seeing. But the mind wants to find the one bad apple in the bunch of 100 good ones, that one bad thought. Not bad. I don't mean good and bad. You know what I mean? That one thought that says it ain't as good as you think, And then I could just step back and say, it is. It is. I have evidence. And I'm holding the world in my heart because I know people are worried about things. And I was given the word prudence to practice concern without worry. And it's just, they're all opportunities to sit every time I'm pinged about something and feel what's going on in the body. And then proceeding from there, rather than trying to fix the story in the world first thing. There may be something to do. But to let go and be willing and choose from a different identification. That's what it's being pointed here today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Amy.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Cindy, and thank you, Rana. I have two different sort of tangential things. The first one is that I was watching Marianne Williamson. She did an Instagram, I don't know, talk or whatever, and then someone else from our group sent me another written piece from her. And it's really interesting because when I read Lesson 51, Part 3, I don't understand anything I see. I don't think that it's asking us to be flaccid or passive. Just because we don't understand when we've judged it amiss, I think that the key there is when I've judged it amiss. And we don't always know when we've judged things amiss until after the fact. But Marianne Williamson was just talking about the current situation today, and people were asking her, when you're really preaching that love is the underpinning of everything, and it's true that it is, then what kind of action do you take in the world? And her response was, I thought, really good. She said, "It when you see a 3-year-old in the kitchen wandering around with a knife, you get in front of them and you take the knife away. You don't just go, oh well, God put the knife in the hand of the 3-year-old. I guess they'll figure it out, you know." So there are times when we're called to make a stand or to say, no, that's not something that I'm going to support or live with. And I think the key is knowing when that's judging and when that's, I guess, as Rhonda said, being prudent. So those are just that's I wanted to put that out there. But the second thing was, I was wondering, Cindy, if you would say a little bit more about where you are with all this, because suicide is really, it's really ragged, you know. Um, and I've never dealt with suicide in my family before, but I can only imagine that it's so final in this world anyway. There's no opportunity for any further discussion or anything. So I just wondered if I'm not putting you on the spot or anything like that, but I just thought I would send the invitation from me that I'd love to hear more from you about how you're doing with it. What your thoughts?
Can I respond to the Marion Williamson thing first? Is that all right? The guides, I don't remember if it was yesterday or today, they were helping me, and it feels for me like it's the same. Well, it's they were talking about the difference between fear-based action and discernment, and they would literally have said in the statement that you were just talking about, we're here to serve, so we don't serve on the couch. The guides, listening to the guides the way they're talking right now has been so beautiful. They're like, if you're being called to action, then you move in action.
Yeah.
But we have the opportunity to do that without fear. And that has been extraordinarily meaningful for me here. They continually state that you can be remade as a human being, as a Cindy, as a Richard, as an Amy, in a frequency that doesn't hold that chronic level of fear, which as a human race has been part of our reality since the human race began. So it's an interesting thing to welcome the possibility that I get to be me and be of service in the world to take the knife away from the 3-year-old running in front of me without a fear response. They continually state you do not need the fear response to be of use in the world. And I'm sitting with that. What I'd like to do is tell you in a very general statement. If you're willing, I'll tell you more about the story. And I invite you to feel into what your judgments are as you listen to this story. And I could tell you right off the bat, um, because for me right now, I'm being called into service. All I am is disturbed, but I'm disturbed on so many different levels that I can't, like, anytime I try to slow down to tell you why, I realize that I'm making it up just to make the mind feel better. Literally, it's people in my world. It's a close family members, in-laws. I'll leave it at that. That is involved. So not my direct, but so we're dealing with a couple who's been together since they were young, very, very young. And they both turned 89 within a couple of weeks of each other. So, he is a retired policeman. And supposedly there is a level of consciousness within the police force, at least the way he communicates it, that we choose our way out. Nobody's going to take us out. You know, he had friends that had cancer diagnoses and have essentially said, fuck that. I'm going out on my, like, that's just part of the mentality. She had failing health. And for the last however many years, his entire life focus was on taking care of her. And it happened fairly suddenly, but she lost her life in October. And through the whole thing, he said, there's no way I'm living without her. And after she passed, um, there was tremendous grief, and then there was the beginning of health problems. And he didn't want to do them. And he it's an interesting thing, you know. Everybody knew about the one gun, but they didn't know about the second gun, and he used it on Saturday, right? So that's the general story. Now you look, and I'm listening to what people are saying. I have some people that are saying, you know, you get older and can't you have this miserable life with cancer, and then it takes you away, and you can all just say thank God that their misery is over. I heard that spoken by someone. How dare they do this to us? I'm listening to that. Don't they know what they're doing to their grandchildren? And they have so much to live for. Like, I'm hearing all of these, and every single one of them is valid. But part of where I am right now with it is I am recognizing that as long as I am in my story and my feelings about it, I have absolutely no ability to be in his. That's part of what I'm sitting in. And I have no ability, as long as I am watching how I'm reacting to this very specific, very acute, crazy, like, shock story. I'm reacting to it from me. I am finding I am able to hold a space for a whole bunch of people. And, you know, I'm in service as a minister. I'm in service because of all the work I've been doing. And I am being churned up, right? I'm not sleeping as much as I slept this time last week. And I'm doing a lot of dyads, and I'm doing contemplations, and I'm sitting, and I'm moving, and I'm anxious. You know, there's all these different things that are happening, and I'm meeting it all. Like, I'm meeting it all. And communicating to myself and others that at this moment, there's no reason to expect that we're going to feel okay. And that's been my number one message. Allow yourself to feel whatever it is that's going on. And I'm allowing myself to feel whatever it's going on. And I've been communicating to both my children, feel whatever you're feeling. And my prayer is that we use this to make the decision to live our best life now, however we can do it. And how do we express love? And I don't know. There's just so much here. If I hold and then, that these teachings are chosen at random. Literally all this is going on and I'm holding this book and I'm asking the divine for assistance, and then the book opens at random. And I use it to help. And so right now I'm being reminded to allow everything to come up and to remember that there's nothing more powerful than love, and be able to highlight all the different pieces of this story that seem to contradict that and offer them up. And like at the same time, how do I serve? My human standpoint, what do I do? Where do I go? Like all of these things are all happening at once. But mostly, Amy, I'm allowing myself to be as disturbed as I'm feeling. I'm not attempting to control this, but I'm coming into every meeting that I'm being asked to hold. And this is not the first one. And I'm literally confessing I'm distracted. There's this sense of disturbance and confusion and distraction, and that's what's here. And I ain't gonna hide it. This hiding isn't part of the equation for me anymore. Not gonna pretend I feel okay when I don't. So is that's where I am right now. Everything that's going on.
Yeah, thank you for that.
There's no worldly answer from my standpoint, right? There's no worldly answer. And the family was visited by a couple of different blue herons, and somehow it brought them peace.
That's great. That's fantastic. That's that's the Holy Spirit, right? That's the voice for God, right? So good for them that they noticed it. And yeah, I mean, who would be asking anybody to be anything other than what they are? That would be the small self thinking that it had to respond in a certain way. You know, you know that that's not true, right? So you're giving everybody else permission to be their authentic self as you are yours. So thank you for answering, Cindy. Really appreciate that. And I really wish your family well. And I mean, I know they are well, and I hope that they know they're well.
Yeah,
I wish them peace.
thank you. Richard.
What's worked for me, I'll share this with you. We all know that the Course teaches us to extend the love that we are in truth. That's the bottom line, right? So the question is, how do we do that? So for me, I never know how to do it, regardless of the situation, whether it's me or a family member or someone I don't know or a politician or whatever. So I always have to ask for guidance because I don't know what to think, what to say, or what to do. So I always ask the Holy Spirit or Jesus, whatever your go-to is, and for guidance. And then I wait for the guidance. And then I follow whatever comes into my mind. Most of the time now it's a win-win situation but sometimes I screw up, and I apparently listen to the ego rather than the Holy Spirit, and I say something or do something which is, my perception, totally inappropriate. But that's the way it is. I mean, that's what life is in this illusion. You make mistakes, and you learn from your mistakes. So I learned rather than be fearful of making a mistake, I just do whatever I think I'm guided to do. Let the cards fall where they may. Most of the time, I'm right on the nail, but sometimes I'm not. So and then I forgive myself and start all over again. Love you all.
Love you too. What's next? Hey, Richard.
I guess I'm making up for missing all the meetings.
Oh, and you
Speak
were
my
like,
time.
the hole was deeper and deeper every single day last week.
This weekend, an interesting thing happened. A relative of mine posted a number of comments on Facebook, and she unfortunately is suffering from the Trump derangement syndrome. So they're all negative Trump issues, and I was talking to my partner about this, and we were thinking, the Course says that we project our sin, guilt, and fear outside of ourselves onto others. And it fits in what you read today. So, what we assumed that our relative was doing was projecting their sin, fear, and guilt on Trump. And he was an evil guy, and she was the innocent victim of this horrible person who was running the country. And it was perfect course philosophy that that's all we do. When we see whatever we perceive of something in the world, it's either a projection of what we think is real or what is real in truth. So, and then we perceive what we think we see according to those beliefs. And so I just thought that I find it kind of interesting. Obviously, I immediately extended my love to her mentally because I didn't call her criticize her belief. I just felt sorry for her that she's going through this mental derangement problem with and not being at peace and not being in love. So, but I had to ask for guidance for that too, because I didn't want to talk about it. So I just mentally extended love. But since we're all one.
I was holding a meeting. I think it was Friday. It was not in an open door. It was somewhere else, and there was somebody in that we weren't studying A Course in Miracles, but it was someone who's a friend who I knew goes to a lot of Course in Miracles teachings, and it was interesting because at one point he communicated a lot of concern about the management of the job he was working in and how they were making all these mistakes and they were not treating their employees well. And it went on about how damaging they were being. And it was interesting because I felt inside. And then I said to him, do you want to hear what I would say if it was me? And uh, and he agreed to it because I was I was just laughing. I was like, We only ever project into the world what it is we're refusing to see inside. And I'm able to hold that in the same space that Amy was talking about, because the attack that he was spewing and the judgment, it was all over the place, right? And from that energy, I am now in an energetic space of realizing whenever I start doing that in that space, I'm not changing the world. I'm feeding a delusion. But when I'm able to neutralize that and come inside and find this open space, I feel an empowered ability to take action in a world that makes a significant difference. And he just started laughing. You know, it's one of the reasons why we get to be in rooms. We get to see, and it's wondering, like when I shared my story, right? Did it change the opinion about what happened when you hear the whole thing as opposed to something else? And it's just all, there's so many opinions here that that they're becoming a more and more difficult for me to hold, because I could taste the fear in them and I could taste the judgment in them, and I could. It's good to have you here, Nadego. We all want to know how you're doing.
Hi, everyone. I'm so happy. I'm just so happy.
Are you walking? Are we seeing you walk?
No. I'm in a wheelchair. So I broke my foot in two places, so I can't walk. But I'm just so happy. I'm just so happy. And I get to share with some people here, and they're just like, what is that program? I mean, but I can't I can't help it. It's just changed. It's just brought me so much joy, and I I yeah, I'm just so happy. It's just amazing. And it doesn't matter what's happening. That's just amazing. It's this love that we are, and this joy. It's just so amazing. So yeah, I love it. Oh, and then even like so the my roommate, she had the TV on 24/7, and but it was amazing. God just showed me, okay, do this. And so it's and I've learned just to let everything just whatever's happening, it's okay. And it's just such a gift. So, and I just love being here with all of you. So that's just I miss all of you, and yes, I just love being here with all of you. So
Oh, you've been in all of our meetings, so we wait to see you. Lori and I I was talking to Lori on the phone earlier this morning, and we were both just speaking your praises, grateful for your presence. Thank you.
so great to be in your presence. Such a gift.
Who else would like to speak into this meeting while we're still recording and sharing with people that watch the replay? Livy. Are you there, Livy? I saw you on mute. Oh, you just muted again. This Sunday, I'm leading a homily. I'm leading the gathering at Awakening Together. And Rana's reading, and she's reading from, do you have the book right there, Rana? Waiting for make sure Richard sees it, The Only Little Prayer You Need. And there is a growing number of us that are playing with this prayer. Gave it to a friend that came for dinner this Saturday too. And here's the first thing that's happened, right? So it began with, and I talked about it, there was a question in one of the books from the guides that said, who do you care about most? And I immediately answered Emma, and I immediately realized that it's not because I love her more than my other daughter or anybody else in the world. It's because I think about her more, and I think about her more because I worry about her more, and worry is fear, and I don't want to continue to project fear onto my daughter. And then I believe I said that in this group. Richard recommended this book, and the prayer is, please heal me of this fear, of these fear-based thoughts, and to and then what really happened was the understanding that over and over and over again, I and others who are playing this with me keep rewriting this prayer to please help me heal these fear-based thoughts, which is very interesting because that's the ego's way of taking it back so it won't be healed. And I've mostly gotten that sorted, though friends have caught me saying it out loud incorrectly. And what I've discovered is that secret, based on everything we're talking, is one of the first thing I discovered was that I wasn't actually worried about M at all. I was projecting onto this being who's actually doing pretty good at figuring out how to navigate this world. So I didn't have to look at what was going on inside. The fear around being seen and being known. And, if I'm no longer needed to be a mother of broken kids, then who am I? And so I've been sitting with that. And it's been very, very, very interesting to see how desperately this aspect of the fear-based self needs to be needed, when underneath that is this yearning to be seen and known and cherished and cared for. And so this coming up Sunday, going to be discussing what happens with just a 2-week commitment to asking for help from an energy that's outside of the intellect. Doesn't mean it's outside of me. It's just outside of the conditioned mind. And I'm having an extraordinary experience with it. Yeah. We still have 3 minutes. Chuck, you're unmuted. Is that because you want to speak into the meeting? Oh, don't. No. You're unmuted.
That was an accident.
This is interesting this hour.
There's no such thing as an accident.
Now, Barbie, you're on.
Hi, everybody. I just wanted to say I sure do love all y'all, and have just so appreciated all the vulnerability and the shares and the insights and the wisdom and everything in this meeting today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hey, Barbie. Barbie's legitimately got her hand raised now.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I've been playing with the prayer too, and I've caught myself a couple of times saying help in the middle. No. But ever since I really started on Thursday, I've been having an exceptional life going on right now. Totally happy. I mean, dancing, which I normally dance on the floor. I literally picked my foot up like 1.5 inches, and I'm dancing because someone put Footloose in my mind, and you know how energetic that is. So I danced the first part, totally got out of breath, enjoyed myself. My husband says you gotta kill yourself. I loved it. Second time at the end, they do it. This time, I did lose my balance, but I caught the couch, and I just loved everything. Had 2 good 3-minute aerobics, and I feel terrific. And I've been following his guidance, and I've been having a wonderful time since then. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you. So I'm imagining as long as you don't start dancing on the tabletops, you'll be okay.
Yeah, because I have a problem with balance a lot. I've had it for a long time. And so as long as I keep my 2 feet stationary, I'm fine. Usually I dance in my seat a lot, but somehow I got the energy to dance and lift my feet. And I was trying to do some of the dance moves on with Footloose, can't do it. So I was just doing my thing.
I can't think of a better way for us to end this hour. So very, very grateful. Our next meeting in an open door is the 12-stepping meeting, which is at noon Eastern tomorrow, where we all know that we've been
Actually,
addicted to a
Cindy, the
sore.
Actually,
next
it's training
meeting,
wheels.
it's
Oh,
training.
training wheels. See how distracted can one get? The next meeting at an open door is at 10 a.m. Eastern. It's training wheels. And then after that is the 12-stepping meeting. Hour after that one ends. Let me stop the recording. I love us very, very much.